everyone, my name is Rochelle Innocent and I'm the founder and CEO of Project Purpose. Welcome to our channel. Our community is focused on fostering the intellectual and character development in children. We do this through our parent-child workshops that are focused on 4 themes: autonomy, self-efficacy, compassion, and self-concept, in order to cultivate grit, perseverance, and resilience in each child. And we are so thrilled to be offering one of the first of its kind digital, virtual, and continuous learning environments, enabling parents and children to connect from all around the world. At Project Purpose, our overarching mandate is to renew and rebuild family, community, and relationships. Our different social media platforms provide us with an opportunity to have discussions and to create space for all topics that relate to family, community, and relationships with ourselves as well as with others, with a primary focus on mental health and education. More precisely, the ways that the institutions of mental health and education play a role and have played a role in our societies at large. These discussions and debates provide us with an opportunity to think critically about what needs to change within these structures for us to live up to our bold slogan, support, protect, and empower each child through youth-focused development, better known as leadership in juvenescence. We recognize that in valuing our children's leadership potential, this also translates as recreating and co-creating environments both socially and politically that will enable our children to thrive. For those of you who are particularly keen on the topic, we also write thought pieces every other Monday. We actually just dropped a thought piece this past Tuesday, so definitely be sure to meander over to the website and check out our online content. Now, if it is the case that you are looking for a listening alternative, well, we're available wherever podcasts are playing, and we provided you with access to a few links down below. Now, as is the convention, be sure to subscribe. I am not that great at growth strategy, but if you found something of use to you, if this was of benefit to you, then join our community of game changers. Let's get into it. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another segment here on Project Purpose. For those of you who are new, we cover topics that relate to mental health, mental wellness, and education on a week-by-week basis. And today's topic of discussion is mental wellness. And the conversation around mental wellness, I'm going to be talking about healing. I want to talk about healing because all of us have something that we're healing from. We all have something that we're trying to move on from, and it is a non-linear process. And I myself am on my own healing journey. I have been through a lot, as I'm sure those of you who have been following my channel for a while are aware of. But I am a huge believer in just giving yourself the time that it needs. And so this isn't something that I've curated. This isn't my own personal wisdom, but it is a wisdom that I gained from calling the 1-800-KIDS hotline. And I was a teenager at the time. I was 14, dealing with my very first heartbreak. Which is funny now because, really, when you think about things in hindsight, a lot of things that were very serious are not as serious anymore when we think about what we experienced in between. But I used to call the 1-800 hotline regularly. I didn't necessarily feel like I had the space to be able to have certain questions answered. And this was way before Google was really prominent. I was one of those kids who called that 1-800 hotline a lot. So I'm someone who's always going to be a proponent for having tools and channels available for children who are needing support or who are needing guidance, who don't know where to go, because it was seriously my speed dial. I called the 1-800 hotline at least a couple times a week, just asking different questions or being honest about my fears, and they were just so supportive. And so in this specific instance, I was going through my first heartbreak, and I remember asking, I'm like, well, how long is this going to take? Like, how long am I going to be hurt? And I wanted her to give me like a very rigid, very structured timeline as to like how I can make sure that I kind of push through this process. And what she said was, well, every day you're going to wake up and it's going to hurt, and it might hurt a little bit more, it might hurt a little bit less, but you can bet that there's going to be one day where you wake up and it's just a memory, and the memory is going to give you what you've been through, but that pain is going to be gone. And that's how you know that you've healed from it, when you can recall a moment, or when it comes to your attention just kind of haphazardly, but the emotion is no longer tied to it. So you give yourself the space to reach that place, and it only happens if you give yourself the opportunity to kind of feel those emotions as they come. So when they come, just be like, okay, like I'm not healed yet because it's still hurting, there's still pain, but just know that there's going to be a moment in time where you think back on that memory that was so painful, that was so jarring, that was so traumatizing, and that trauma and that pain and that emotion associated with that memory is not going to be there anymore. It's just going to be like, hey, well, that's something that I survived. And I didn't realize just how profound that impacted my own healing, because rather than judge myself for healing or try to speed the process along, I would check in. While she didn't use that language, I think that's language that we've kind of cultivated a little bit later on as a collective, but she was pretty much telling me to check in. Like every day, this check in, like how much or how little am I hurting right now? And what do I need to support myself? Recognizing, understanding that there is going to be a day where I remember this and I'm not going to need like the emotional support. The emotional support work will have been done and it'll just be a memory. And so that's what healing really is giving yourself the space to experience the emotions as they come up, recognizing that there's going to be a day that takes place where you have the memory and the emotions themselves will have been processed. They will have been things that you have been able to bring closure to. And so that's how I take healing. And when I think about well-being, when I think about wellness, we think about like all of the things that life can throw at us. We can ask ourselves, well, how can I practice wellness and practice feeling, you know, like I'm contributing to my well-being when I've been through so many horrific situations? And I think it's just giving yourself time, like day by day, giving yourself the space and the opportunity to take a couple of steps back to reflect on that experience and how that experience has shaped and informed your reality and how you would like it to shape and inform your reality as well. And that's really important because experiences on their own can be so debilitating, right? They can create a lot of fear as it relates to navigating situations and scenarios that might trigger some of those memories, but we need to recognize that we have the wisdom now, right? Like what we didn't know before, we know now, and we can navigate different settings with that wisdom in place. And that's what some of those jarring experiences give us. If we push through the pain, if we push through some of the ways that those situations and those circumstances and those people have really just jarred us and have shifted our worldview and shifted our sense of ourselves even, but we are the ones who with intention, with mindfulness, and from a place of self-love kind of put those pieces back together, not ignoring the scars, not ignoring some of the damage that took place, but making a point to heal it so that as we heal in a way where we are better than who we were, right? We are evolved, progressive, better than who we were, not better by way of like comparison, but better by way of evolution. And so when I think about healing, I think about there is no timeline, right? And I think that it's just so unfortunate that we live in a society that is so production focused that we prefer to have a timeline to processing our emotions and to give ourselves a specific period of time that is needed to push through a specific situation. And I think that, I mean, we can have averages. There can be average timelines that we can put in place based on like the amount of people who have gone through similar things, have, you know, taken the time to support themselves with, but we're all very different, right? Our emotional footprints are different. The way that we react to the world is very different. And you need to take that into consideration and not beat yourself up, not give yourself a hard time. And so healing is hard. It is a hard time in and of itself. So don't give yourself a hard time by being critical, by being judgmental, by being unforgiving to yourself for the role that you played in some of the situations that you're healing from. And even if that role was ignorance, and ignorance is not bliss, but wisdom is a hard-won quality through experience. And unfortunately, for the most part, that can be like really jarring experiences as well, but it can be positive experiences. And I think that healing creates a lot of positivity out of some of the really dark places and situations and people that we've encountered when we are focused on healing and on recalibrating and on regrouping and on repivoting and repositioning and setting ourselves up to make sure that we're not exposing ourselves to those kinds of harm anymore. Then we can create a lot of beauty from that place as well. So I wanted to come on here and have a quick conversation around healing, around giving yourself the space and the time to heal, to check in without judgment, to just hold space for the emotions as they come up, recognizing that there's going to be a day where that memory pops into your mind, where those emotions are no longer there. You'll have resolved them, you'll have processed them, and you'll push on to the next thing that we need to heal from, because life is not one of those merry-go-rounds where it's one and done. Like, we're always going to be constantly growing and shifting and evolving and healing as a byproduct of the experiences that trigger and that promote our growth, our evolution. evolution and our development. So I want to come in here and talk a little bit about that. My focus will always be on healing. My priority will always be on healing from the things that have hurt me and that have harmed me in the past, and I'm never allowing those things to really hinder or to block me from experiencing the great beauty that is this life. So I wanted to come in here and talk about that, some food for thought for you. If that was helpful to you, then that makes me feel so great. If you have something that you want to say by way of your healing journey and what you've learned and some of the tidbits of wisdom that have supported you, definitely leave that down below. As it relates to my stalking situation, I have no news for you yet, but you'll be the first to know when I do. Thank you so much again, and I look forward to chatting with all of you very soon. We'll talk to you later.